What's up? So we're at Latka, which is Lee A. Tolbert School. We are on the east side. It's one of my favorite places. We came over here for a Mecca Challenge where we teach these kids how to think entrepreneurially, and it kind of lit a spark in one of the administrators. And so she's got a full entrepreneur program that we're building out. So I'm gonna go down into the cafeteria here. You're gonna follow me, and we're gonna be talking to 30, 40, who knows who, but I think it's teacher and staff about this program.
Hey! Raindrops, drop top, hot top, smoking on cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Cooking up dope in the crock pot. We came from nothing to something, nigga. I don't trust nobody, grip the trigger. Call up the gang and they come and get gang. Cry me a river, give you a tissue. Bad and bullshit, bad. Cooking up dope with a Uzi. My niggas is savage, ruthless. We got better than 100 rounds too. My bitch is bad and bullshit, bad.
Yeah, good idea. So before we really get started, I brought part of my team here today. Jack is our head vlogger. He works for a company called 8080, which I own a part of. So if he gets you on camera and you don't like it, you can swat the camera, but if you really like it, own it. Okay, get up in it and just do it. I'm just now bringing on board my director of communications, Tiffany Watch. She's back there. Hey, Tiffany. So, yes, amazing. So what we found was happening because we run so many ventures is that it was kind of difficult to stay organized, especially with all of the people who were wanting to start conversations about these businesses, get involved, become clients, et cetera, et cetera. But then also on our end, we realized that we weren't getting out enough. And so Tiffany is really going to be taking charge on that. If you guys want to connect after this, of course, come up and talk to me. But your contact information will go to Tiff, and then we'll get all set up. So Tiffany's there. And we actually have our little assistant, Naomi. Naomi, say hey, baby. There you go. So a couple weeks ago, Tiffany and I went out for a meeting at the River Market, and I let Naomi pay with one of my credit cards. And ever since then, she's been so into money, it's been ridiculous, especially my money. But she's learned a very important lesson about earning, right, Naomi? You got to earn what? Got to earn it all. Got to earn everything, right? So Naomi's our treasurer, our lead expense, all sorts of stuff. So Naomi's our assistant. We have a really, really special guest too. So Jack's mother, whom I just met today, Donna, is here as well. So give claps to Donna. She's an amazing woman. I'm so glad she's here. She is a trained educator, even though she never got into it in the way that you all did. So that's my team here today. Okay, so Rachel, you said, where'd Rachel go? Rachel, 550 students. So you have over 500 students who probably come from what people call underprivileged neighborhoods, underserved neighborhoods. I don't like any of those titles. I don't think they're very accurate. I prefer to call them underdog neighborhoods. So you've got over 500 underdogs under your wings. That's the same type of neighborhood that I came from too. So I grew up in Independence, and we were a pretty dependent family. If you go back and drive around my old block, you'll see something really interesting. So if you start on the top left corner of our block and go all the way around to the top right corner, all the way down to the bottom right corner, and then come back to where our house was, you'll notice something really interesting. All of the houses, every single one of those houses is run down, is dilapidated, the yard isn't taken care of. Sometimes there's cars in the yard, there are old bikes, stuff's broken. And then you get to our old house, and it looks different. It's got a second level on there, the paint's new, there's a big star that the next neighbor, the person who bought our house, our old house, put on there. They took care of it. And that wasn't an accident, that was actually by design. And I think most of you will understand how it came to be that way. So when you grow up in a tough underdog neighborhood, you're in a weird bubble, right? You're in a weird bubble where sometimes hope doesn't exist, especially consistent hope, unless it exists in the home or unless they come to a place like this academy, right? And that was not the case in our house. Like, my parents would not let me not hope, okay? They pounded it into me. They got me out into different neighborhoods, and they were living by example. They were working so hard. I'm a son of an immigrant, and then my dad, I don't know if there's such thing as a self-made man, but he's about as close as it gets. So I was watching this, and they took care of our house. It manifested in our actual house. I think that's a good place to start. So do any of you, when you're talking with people outside of this type of neighborhood or this type of environment, when you're talking with somebody who isn't from here or has immersed themselves in it, do you kind of have trouble explaining why kids can't just pull themselves up by their bootstraps, or like why working harder doesn't always lead to the same results as it would over in another part of the city? Like, do you guys kind of run into that?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to steal this from me because I was having a really, really tough time figuring out how to communicate it without belittling the other person. And then I was having a tough time doing that and like communicating it and winning them over. Like, I don't want to just be a petri dish under a microscope and they say, well, if you inject this, then this will happen. We're not science experiments, we're people. And so are the 500 plus kids, right? Okay, so this is about a kid in a house, okay? Imagine there's a kid in a house, been there their whole life, okay? And they've sat in a room and it's been pitch black for 5, 10, 15 years, pitch black, okay? Don't ask me how they survived, but it's a metaphor. All right, so somebody knocks on their front door, like on the door of the bedroom, okay, and opens it up and flips the light on. And this kid is like blinded by the light, okay? Look around the room, they're like, what is that? What are those books things? What are these? What is this, a bed? What is all that? And the person who's standing at the door is an adult, okay, you, maybe. And you say, well, that's a bed, that's a bookshelf, that's where you can learn things. This is what all this stuff does. Don't worry about who I am, but I just turn the light on for you, right? So think about that as a kid in real life. When they come to Latka, you guys turn the light on, okay? So now they're seeing it. So this person says, okay, kid, let's walk through the house. So you walk down the hallway, you walk up the stairs, and you look around at all the bedrooms. You go up one more, and you're in the attic, and you have all these trinkets and stuff, and the kid's just going crazy. And then the person leads the kid down into the kitchen, and they don't touch the faucets or anything. They don't learn how to run the dishwasher. They don't do that, but they see it. And this is blowing the kid's mind, right? Don't touch anything. I'm going to take you outside, okay? So now that kid's walking up and down the halls going to your classes, right? That's the equivalent. So the person walks the kid outside and says, turn around. Look at that. That's what they call a house. Okay, so this kid who's never been out of this dark room is now looking at something the kid has never seen, and it's this big, wonderful house. And the person looks down at the kid and says something like, hey, so that's a house. It's a safe place. You can experiment within the house. You can do things inside the house. You have privacy. You can learn inside your house. But here's something cool. You can rent that. And what that means is that you can actually live in there. And beyond that, you can actually own one of those things. I won't tell you how, but you can own one of those things, all right? So put yourself in the kid's shoes. Like, the kid is just like mind blown, right? Like, these are all new concepts. These are all new concepts. It happens when they're introduced to new stuff, okay? So this is where we lose our friends who come from different neighborhoods, okay? This is where the conversation changes. What they believe is that if you give people like us, underdogs, resources, then we'll figure it out, right? Oh, man, just give them internet access, and they'll figure it out, right? Man, just give them library cards, they'll figure it out. Do you give them that transportation? Like, you give them that, and then they'll figure it out. And then they won't have any excuse, right? Am I right? That's what happens. So let's go back to the metaphor. You're in the front yard. The kid now knows that he can own the house. So now the big person, the adult, says, here's what's really going to blow your mind, kid. You could build that house. You could build it. You could build it. I know all this is new, but you can build it. So give me 1 second. And he walks off. The adult walks off. And meanwhile, the kid's like, what is going on? I have no idea what's going on, but I'm inspired, right? I'm inspired. I heard something I've never heard before. And now somebody believes in me, okay? So the adult comes back, and that adult is followed by a truck full of lumber, and somebody drops 10 pallets of siding, and then you got shingles, and you got all the electric wires, and you got everything. And that person comes back, the adult, with a bag of tools and a blueprint, says, hey, these are the instructions, and these are the tools to get everything done. Peace out, man, right? And that's what happens. We can't just like give resources to these kids, right? So here's where we lose our friends even more, okay? We've got all these resources, the kid has all these resources, but the adult left, okay? Let's say that the kid is, say, a normal kid, right? And they get overwhelmed by all this. Maybe they don't understand blueprints, they don't understand the tools. And so what do? They go back inside, right? And sometimes they go all the way back into the room and they shut the lights off. At best, they go back into the room and learn how, like into the house, keep the lights on, learn how to use the faucets and stuff. You guys with me? That's at best, right? Like I'm looking at some of my friends that came up from my neighborhood, and I would say 90% of them are coasting. And some of them are dead, okay? So that's at best. Now let's say like that kid decides that he's gonna do it. This little kid's gonna do it. So they unroll the blueprint, they learn how to use all the tools and stuff, and they get at it, okay? And like I said, this is where we lose our friends even more. There's a societal pressure in below average neighborhoods to be below average. Yeah? Like it is very tough to be an above average kid in a below average neighborhood. It's tough, you get made fun of. Sometimes you get beat up. So imagine that this kid decides that this little kid's gonna build a house. But every third day, there's a group of other kids that comes by and ridicules him, even punches him. I heard a story from a teacher who taught out at Cristo Rey. And some of these kids didn't have rides home, you know. And so she would give these kids rides home. She'd stop by McDonald's, pick them up some chicken nuggets and stuff like that. Like I wish I had that teacher. And there was this one kid she was telling me like who would never let her take him home, and she never understood why. So eventually she broke him down and was like, just tell me why, just tell me why. And the kid goes, I get beat up on the way home because they think that I think I'm better than them. And like they beat me up, and I didn't want you to see that. Like this is real. And that's a societal pressure that we lose our other friends on, no matter how well-meaning, how big of a heart they've got, right? Okay, so where am I going with this? When it comes to a program like what Rachel's putting together and what you all are collaborating on right here, you guys are more than the blueprint. You're more than the person who turned the lights on, showed them around the house, took them to the front lawn, showed them a house, told them they could build the house, gave them the tools. You're more than that. You are that and more. What you guys are, and take this like very, very seriously. This is something I wish I had. What you guys are you're the protector. And you're the one that's consistently giving them hope. And you're protecting them from that group of kids that will come by and make fun of you for being above average because they're scared of it, or they don't understand it, or it's a new concept. Okay, so when I was in grade school, I used to get kicked out of my class because I would try to sell things to other kids. And I forgot it today. I told Dondo I was going to bring it. I totally spaced. But just 5 weeks ago, I was cleaning out the basement. And man, you never know what you're going to find in basements. My mom had kept this box, this crayon box, where I had like glue sticks, like broken erasers, screws. I don't know where I picked up a screw. And I would make like these cars, and I'd call it abstract art is what I called it, because they all looked horrible. They weren't anything. And I would hustle my friends, and I'd get kicked out of class. So you know what I would do is I'd sit outside my class, cross-legged, and I would take my friends' Sharpies, and I'd color my shoes in like crazy designs. And then after school, I would try to sell my shoes. Yeah, so they love me. My parents love me, yeah. They really love me. So that's when it all started. But here's the key, like when I went back home, they'd be like, why aren't you having shoes, kid? It's like, well, yeah, but I got like $8. They supported it. They were mad at me for a little bit, but they were like, okay, cool, sell it for 10 next time. What are you doing, weakling? I was watching, so Rachel's gonna have a big chance, a huge opportunity coming up to pitch a Shark Tank KC. And I'm not sure how much y'all know about this, but I'm new to it. I didn't know it until Rachel sent me the video, because hopefully we get to collaborate on our pitch. And I watched the video from last year. Has anybody seen that video from last year for Shark Tank KC? Okay, wonderful. So maybe you might remember this. There was this one very powerful, charismatic woman, and she was one of the teachers who pitched one of their programs to get funded. Okay, she was one of, I think, 5, 6, 7, I don't know. But they were pitching ideas like, this guy wanted a set of juicers so he could start weaning his kids off of artificial sweeteners. Another person wanted to create a storybook that featured the kids as the main characters, because only 8% of the books, of all the children books made the year before, 8% featured kids that had brown or black skin. and 98% of his kids had brown or black skin that he was teaching. It just didn't make sense. So this woman, I wish I remembered her name, but she was pitching this idea where she would have these mobile testing studios, private testing studios for kids with learning disabilities so they could focus. If they didn't take their test fast enough, she had to do something dumb like move them out in the hall. They just didn't have the space, right? So she wanted to give those kids the privacy and really the dignity that they deserve. So they pitched to a few sharks, like panelists, and I know a little bit about the panelists. There was only one, Salvador Perez, the catcher for the Royals, who came from like a situation like what our kids are coming from, what I came from. So they lacked that gap of knowledge, that understanding. And so the shark, one of these sharks, great heart, she's there to give away money to fund these programs, okay? Not a bad person. She goes, so let me ask you this, and she was talking to the lady who pitched. What would make this absolutely exceptional? And this is my favorite part. The woman like got real sassy and she goes, exceptional? Like as if it wasn't already exceptional, right? And so the crowd laughed and all that stuff. And then she goes, you know what would make it really exceptional is if the funding could cover pencils for the test. And so the shark was like, she had this puzzled look, and the teacher jumped back in and said, yeah, they can't afford their own pencils sometimes, and so I buy them for them. And the shark says, wait, so on your teacher's salary at that school, you buy your kids pencils so that they could take tests? And she's like, you bet I do. Of course I do. And the crowd loved it. They went wild. Rachel's program's different. When she's up on that stage, she's not going to teach kids how to ask for pencils. She's going to teach kids how to make the pencils. She's going to teach kids how to earn and purchase those pencils. That's the mindset. That's the difference. So that's all I got to say. If you do want to connect to me, man, I'll stay as long as we want to hang out. But I just want to thank you for your time, and you guys are doing some incredible stuff. So I'm going to talk to you.
Oh shit! Records on records, got backers on backers, I'm riding around in a coupe. I take the beat right from you. Bitch, I'm a dog. Beat down her walls. Hop in the fall. I tell that bitch to come for me. I swear these